Versatile Mage. Chapter 456. Flame Bell. Many pieces of information are plain rumors, yet after filtering them out carefully and selling the scrolls at a higher price, most of the magicians will try the best to put in some accurate details. After all, if most of the information they provide is fake, they can only sell their scrolls at a very cheap price. When it reaches a certain threshold, the marketplace will forbid them from being a tipper. The minimum requirement to become a tipper is the advanced hunter rank, while most of the tippers are hunter masters. There are quite a few senior hunters too, said Zhao Mannion. Mo Fan had definitely learned something new. If the news was from hunter masters or senior hunters, the information that the scrolls contained would be extremely valuable. Experts like senior hunters would normally carry out the highest ranked quests, and they would discover the presence of soul seeds or demon beasts along the way. Even if they knew there was something valuable, they would not bother wasting their time on it, but it was a waste to simply hold onto the information. Therefore, it made more sense to write down the information on a secret tipping scroll and sell it to others for some extra cash. Meanwhile, it would also benefit the lower-ranked hunters who were interested in the piece of information, resulting in a win-win situation. Therefore, the secret tipping scrolls were indeed quite meaningful. Why don't you go and buy a few of them? I'll have them give you a discount, offered Zhao Mannion. Since Mo Fan was also a hunter, instead of spending his time on the generic quests from the Hunter Union, he could try his luck through the secret tipping scrolls instead. Alright, I'll buy a few. How much does one cost? Asked Mo Fan. The price varies. The expensive ones can go up to 10 million, while the cheap ones can go all the way down to a few thousand. Tell me your range, and I'll get a few for you, said Zhao Mannion. Let's try a few with a price around 10,000. Mo Fan was fairly rich for the time being, so he decided to try his luck. Not a problem. After all, the marketplace was one of the Zhao family's properties, so Zhao Mannion did have some special rights here. He quickly got a few secret tipping scrolls for Mo Fan. The secret tipping scrolls were quite elegant, since their target audience was magicians, who spent a lot of money on luxuries. After all, a commoner would prefer to spend a few tens of thousands on a branded bag instead of a piece of information which was not guaranteed to be reliable. Open them up yourself, Zhao Mannion said, managing to get 3 secret tipping scrolls. All of them were light blue in color, while those that were more costly were silver and gold. The information provided by senior hunters was fairly reliable, so many people were willing to spend a huge sum of money on them. Mo Fan opened the scrolls and read the contents. A sword-fin ocean demon has been spotted at Wangpu River. There is a higher chance to find it in April. Zhao Mannion stuck his head closer and burst out laughing. The sword-fin ocean demon is an infamous kind of demon beast living in the oceans. Their sword fins are sold for insane prices in the market. The sword fins are an important material to further improve the power of Death Strike magic equipment. The problem is, can we actually find it in Wangpu River? I thought most of them resided somewhere deep in the Pacific Ocean. Fishing. I'm not interested at all. Sigh. What a waste of money, said Mo Fan pitifully. It's fine, we still have 2 more, said Zhao Mannion. Mo Fan nodded and opened another secret tipping scroll and subconsciously read it out. North Burning Valley. There are signs of a new flame bell being born. Damn, this is a valuable piece of information. Zhao Mannion screamed before Mo Fan could react. How is that? Asked Mo Fan. The North Burning Valley is a very famous fire element region in our country, very close to Dunhuang. There, you can find a famous demon beast, a creature that is born with the fire of nature, an elemental beast. The flame bell is considered the rarest among all elemental beasts. Its value is priceless on the market. However, if anyone were selling a flame bell's youngling at an auction, I bet every famous renowned clan in Shanghai would attend it, said Zhao Mannion with excitement. That serious? Asked Mo Fan in shock. Sigh. Are you illiterate? Well, it's hard to tell if the information is reliable or not, said Zhao Mannion. That's my secret tipping scroll. What are you being so excited for? Said Mo Fan unpleasantly. Fuck me, are you seriously unaware of how special a demon beast like the Flame Bell is? Its strength is more than a few times stronger than that of an ordinary beast. Elemental beasts have been the dream contracted beasts for summoners, and this Flame Bell is one of the best elemental beasts you could ever find. Simply speaking, if you manage to get a Flame Bell as your contracted beast, you're going to be famous. You can easily get into the top 10 with the Flame Bell. Said Zhao Mannion. Mo Fan could tell that this Flame Bell was indeed very powerful judging from Zhao Mannion's reaction. The problem was, how did he know if the piece of information was reliable? Don't tell him that he had to pay a visit to the area around Dunhuang City. I'm quite interested in this Flame Bell. Do you have any way to obtain more information about it? Mo Fan asked quickly. Mo Fan had heard of elemental beasts before. If a summoner could sign a contract with an elemental beast, they would obtain a boost for the respective element too. For example, since Mo Fan's primary element was fire, if he managed to get a Flame Bell as his contracted beast, his fire element would either become stronger or have some special burning effect. Simple, spending lots of money. There are filtered secret tipping scrolls that you can get, which are more expensive than the normal ones. If you bought all the ones related to the valley close to Dunhuang City, and if many of the tips are correlated to one another, the pieces of information might be stating the truth, said Zhao Mannion. How much money would I be spending? This is only to get the information, said Mo Fan speechlessly. It's basically gambling. If you think the information is right, you should not just buy more of them. Instead, you should buy all of them. Once you've proven that it's real, you will have fewer competitors compared to the quests submitted to the Hunter Union. All you have to worry about is how you're going to get it. In my opinion, this Flame Bell is perfect to be your contracted beast, since your Rose Flame is already extremely violent among the flames. With the boost from your contract with the Flame Bell, your flame is going to be insane, pretty much unmatchable among flames that aren't soul graded. As a matter of fact, Mo Fan was fairly intrigued. Many students in the school had fire soul seeds, thus his Rose Flame alone no longer granted him an edge. If he could further improve his fire element with a contracted beast, it would be the perfect outcome. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 457. Forming the Team. You can raise the Flame Bell. Every time you feed her a soul seed piece in her youth, there's a higher chance that she will develop a soul grade flame as she ranks up. By then, your contracted beast is going to be terrifying. Even advanced magicians would be scared to fight her. Zhao Mannion became more excited the more he spoke. It was clear that he, too, had not expected Mo Fan's secret tipping scroll to contain information about a Flame Bell. These secret tipping scrolls were truly a great place to find a fortune. Frankly speaking, Mo Fan was not too interested in the contracted beasts that were auctioned in the marketplace. It felt like they were not as useful as his Swift Star Wolf. It would be a waste of money if he could not get a significantly stronger contracted beast after spending 40 million RMB. As such, the Flame Bell that Zhao Mannion had mentioned was quite ideal. If he was planning to get one, he wanted to get something great. He finally decided to spend the money. He had to get all the information he could about the Flame Bell. The community of the hunters had lots of rumors being shared around every day. Most of the rumors were traded in the Hunter Union, yet some special places would also provide valuable information. Similar to the inns in the milieu of Wuxia Tales, where cultivators always discussed and traded the rumors they heard, the hunters also had their places of gathering too. Zhao Mannion seemed to be quite an expert about things like this. He quickly sent his men to these places to search for the information, and let Mo Fan buy the secret tipping scrolls from specific locations, to see if he could find anything related to the Flame Bell. My money is getting used up at a crazy rate considering I'm only buying a few lines of words. In the room, Mo Fan felt his heart aching as he glanced at the scrolls piling up on the table in front of him. The truth was, it did feel like a lottery. The only difference was, he would know if he had won the jackpot, but he needed a huge sum of money for it. This piece of information is valuable. This group of hunters trespassed into a Flame Bell's territory when they were looking for a soul seed and were fiercely attacked by the Flame Bell. This means that the Flame Bell is very cautious and hot-tempered, which makes sense if she was about to give birth, said Zhao Mannion. Mo Fan had learned a great deal about the North Burning Valley from the scrolls, including the places where the Flame Bell was active. Not many hunters would be hunting around the area, as not everyone could handle the extreme heat. However, Dunhuang was one of the go-to places for hunters to search for treasure, as there were lots of ancient artifacts waiting to be discovered, even though the place was roaming with demon beasts. We've now learned the location, the path to take, the danger level, and the treasure waiting for us. What we lack is an on-the-spot investigation, said Mo Fan. The secret tipping scrolls had provided lots of extra information. If they were actually planning a visit to the Burning Valley, the information would save them lots of trouble. After all, the place was located in the demon beast's territory, and it would be troublesome for humans without any tricks. So you've decided to go, with only the information we have? Asked Zhao Mannion curiously. Just a field trip, it won't bring any harm to us. Just treat it as a training, said Mo Fan. Don't mention the word training, said Zhao Mannion with a long face. I remember that the North Burning Valley isn't far away. If we fly to Gansu and skip Dunhuang City, we should arrive at the North Burning Valley fairly quickly. The trip won't take more than half a month. I'll have plenty of time to rest up to prepare myself for the second challenge week next month, said Mo Fan. You seriously do whatever comes to your mind, Zhao Mannion said helplessly. Most hunters would spend some time preparing themselves so they would not return empty-handed. Only a few like Mo Fan would set out for an adventure straight away. That being said, it was more practical to visit the place than trying to find clues from the unreliable pieces of information. I wish you all the best then. I hope you'll bring a Flame Bell back, and crush all students at the Pearl Institute's main campus. Zhao Mannion gave Mo Fan his blessing. Wish my ass. Did I say I'm going alone? Said Mo Fan, raising his eyebrows. Crap, don't tell me you're thinking of dragging me along, too. Zhao Mannion asked in surprise. What do you say? Mo Fan had finally learned the meaning of a turtle shell defense during their battle with the vampire. The adventure would be significantly less dangerous with Zhao Mannion tagging along. It was obvious that finding the child of a Flame Bell was going to be a difficult task. Mo Fan did not think he could handle it without the help of some elites. After a series of intimidation and bribery, Mo Fan finally convinced Zhao Mannion to come along. Zhao Mannion was not a fan of involving himself in dangerous situations, yet considering his cultivation had been stagnant for quite some time recently, he might somehow benefit from the trip. After all, if it were too dangerous, they would just give up and come back. The journey would not take much time at all. Just the two of us isn't enough. We should look for more people, someone that we can trust, said Zhao Mannion sternly. Going to the North Burning Valley was no joke. It would be naive to rely on themselves. They needed a team that could fight, defend, retreat, and flee. I've asked Lingerling, and she seems quite interested. We'll bring her along, said Mo Fan. Lingerling was their intelligence capsule, and also an experienced hunter. With her in the team, it would save them a lot of trouble. We need someone to do the planning. Our operation will be more efficient with her help, Zhao Mannion agreed. Zhao Mannion was fairly impressed by Lingerling after the incident of the Mother Scaleskin Phantom and the vampire hunt. She was surely better than those unreliable old hunters. Mo Fan dialed a number and asked for Zhang Xiaohe. If there was anyone he could trust, Zhang Xiaohe was surely top on the list. Zhang Xiaohe was courageous, honest, and smart when facing demon beasts. If it weren't for his help when dealing with the Xuanwu giant lizard and the giant poisonous centipede, they would not have been able to carry out the plan. Those were commander-level creatures, yet Zhang Xiaohe was bold enough to agree to it. He would not blink if Mo Fan asked him to come along to the North Burning Valley. In addition, Gansu happened to be right beside Cixi. Thus, Zhang Xiaohe could easily meet up with them. We also need a healer. The Burning Valley is infamous for its danger level. There's a high chance we might lose a limb or break a leg there. Casualties are inevitable without a healer, emphasized Zhao Mannion. Do you think healers are like cabbages, that you can simply grab from the streets? How about Bai Tingting? Have you asked her? I haven't seen her since I've come back to school. I should pay her a visit sometime. You have broad connections. Aren't there any healers that you can trust? Said Mo Fan. Unfortunately, no, apart from those Buddhas from my family. But there's no way I can afford to bring them along, said Zhao Mannion. Healers were luxuries for every group of hunters. The adventure they were planning was fairly unique. Hence, they could only invite those that were trustworthy. How could they possibly find one that fit the criteria? Bai Tingting had not returned to school since the incident. Our group isn't as complete as those experienced groups, so we definitely need a healer. Without one, we should just call it off. It's good if we get it, but it won't bring any good if we're dead, Zhao Mannion said seriously. Mo Fan felt a headache too. Healers were the hardest to find in the world, but the more he learned about the Flame Bell, the more he wanted one to be his contracted beast. By the way, a sudden thought crossed Zhao Mannion's mind. He tapped on Mo Fan's shoulder and asked, "Isn't your sister Xingxia a healer, whose primary element is the healing element, and secondary the psychic element? Unlike demon beasts, those elemental beasts are not necessarily hostile toward humans. With your sister's psychic element, we could easily convince them to let us pass, which would make our adventure a lot easier." Chapter N. Versatile Mage. Chapter 458. Dunhuang. When Mo Fan heard the suggestion of bringing Xingxia along, his first reaction was to shake his head. "You clearly understand her situation. How is that even possible?" said Mo Fan. "You have the Swift Star Wolf. He could carry her around, and even look after her safety. The Burning Valley isn't the safest place to go to, and I was thinking about asking you to find a psychic, too. Magicians with psychic element are scarce as well, and most of them wouldn't be willing to go with us," said Zhao Mannion. The girl's impaired movement would not be too much of a deal. With Mo Fan's summoned beast carrying her, it was actually safer than walking on her own. Even so, she has spent most of her time in school. She won't have any experience when it comes to dealing with demon beasts. Mo Fan was still reluctant. "All right, I know you don't want to place her in danger. That's just my suggestion, you're the one making the call," said Zhao Mannion. We'll send all the information to Lingaling. She will know what we lack and what we should be doing next better than us," said Mo Fan. To Mo Fan's relief, Lingaling was not too obsessed with the dark red soul. She was well aware that her father's death was something unusual, so she could not afford to be overly hasty. Lingaling had returned to her normal behavior, and her eyes flickered when she heard that Mo Fan was planning an adventure to the Burning Valley. Dunhuang was famous in their country, as it was the habitat for many ancient demon beasts, those with the purest lineage and longest history. It was also the most brilliant milestone of their country's magic civilization. Hunters always went there to search for the ancient civilization, and those that were lucky would discover a huge amount of artifacts or equipment. Unfortunately, the Dunhuang region had long become the demon beast's habitat, especially the infamous and savage sand tiger horde. In the south, the one-eyed magic wolves were described as savage and posed a huge threat to mankind, yet they were relatively insignificant compared to the sand tiger horde. The demon tiger species had always been domineering and barbarous. The Burning Valley was located to the east of the Dunhuang region, in the barren sands of the Gobi Desert, where lows swept across the sky, not to mention the extreme heat and hot winds. Even hunters in foreign countries knew about the place. The Burning Valley was included in the Dunhuang region, and apart from Dunhuang City, which Mo Fan was familiar with, the Dunhuang region was a lot bigger, occupying almost half of Gansu province. The Burning Valley was in fact located close to Gansu's Jiayuguan. Mo Fan had limited geographical knowledge, yet he immediately came to an understanding when Jiayuguan was mentioned, having a clearer picture of where the place was. Although the Dunhuang region was fairly dangerous, there were still cities established in certain parts. They could simply fly to Dunhuang Airport and head northeast to their destination, the Burning Valley. Lingerling had been making preparations for the past few days. It seemed like it was her first time going to the desert too, and she looked excited to go on the adventure to the barren sands. As a matter of fact, Lingerling's father had told her stories about his adventures in the Dunhuang region. She had imagined how the place would look since she was young, and the incident with the dark red soul made her miss her father more, so she decided to visit Dunhuang when Mo Fan told her the plan. Mo Fan was extremely lucky to have Lingerling as his partner. The other experienced hunters would take a huge part of the commission. In Mo Fan's case, he had full control over the rewards. According to Lingerling's explanation, once her fighter grew stronger, they would be able to take on higher-ranked quests. Mo Fan spent a few days at school before he got a response from Lingerling. It appeared that she was almost done with the preparations. I've looked into it. We'll have to cross a place known as the Drifting Sand River if our destination is the North Burning Valley. The Drifting Sand River is basically some kind of boundary, and if we don't cross it, we'll have to come into contact with Dunhuang's overlord, the Sand Tiger Horde, which is quite unrealistic. Lingerling showed the map she had drawn out for them. The map strictly followed the standards, with markings about the density of demon beasts. Such details were extremely important for hunters, as they were basically dead if they trespassed into areas with a high density of demon beasts. How do we cross this drifting sand river? If someone managed to get into the North Burning Valley and saw the flame bell, there must be some way to cross it. The drifting sand river is occupied by the elephant sand soldiers, a kind of earth elemental beast that has been around for hundreds of years. These elephant sand soldiers aren't particularly strong on their own, but they always stay in herds. They're densely packed across the entire drifting sand river, and are the biggest challenge to hunters who are planning to visit the North Burning Valley. Lingerling swiped her hand across, and an illustration of an elephant sand soldier popped up on the screen. Force our way across. Mo Fan was a simple and violent man. Don't even think about it. Even an army can't do it. The hunters who made it to the North Burning Valley aren't elites, but they've used some undisclosed methods to cross the drifting sand river. I've tried at least 20 different scenarios, and none of them would work. The only way, and probably the safest way, is to find a psychic, Lingerling said sternly. Zhao Mannion immediately nodded. A psychic was too important when journeying across these elemental beasts' territories. Many groups were willing to offer half of their loot to a psychic to join their party, which clearly implied how important a psychic was in the Dunhuang region. The rarity of a psychic was only second to a healer. Most of them could not be found among the hunters, as they were kept safe by renowned families, or hired as an official by the magic associations. Their party had nothing to offer a psychic, so Lingerling immediately suggested that Mo Fan should bring Xingxia along. Xingxia was the only candidate for the adventure. First, her psychic element would guarantee the safety of their journey, and second, her primary element was healing, another insurance for the group's safety. However, Mo Fan was willing to give up on the plan rather than putting Xingxia in danger. I've already told Sister Xingxia about it. She's very willing to go. Lingerling had already acted before reporting. Mo Fan could only smile wryly. Speaking of which, the elements that Xingxia had awakened were too unique. Not only did she awaken the healing element, she even awakened the psychic element as her secondary element. She might not have any fighting capacity, but she was no doubt a hot prospect for many parties. Countless factions in Hangzhou had been trying to recruit her. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 459. Sandhull Tigers. In the evening, Zhang Xiaohe also gave his response. The guy had made it clear that he would be there, even if it meant him being disciplined. Zhang Xiaohe was all set, so the only remaining question was whether he would bring Xingxia along. At night, Mo Fan was just about to call Zhang Xiaohe to stop preparing, as he had decided to call off the adventure. Unfortunately, Xingxia called him instead. Mo Fan knew that if it was something she could help with, she would not hesitate to do so, even if it meant placing herself in danger in the Dunhuang region. However, Mo Fan was unwilling to let her. He was already self-reproaching for Xingxia's impaired movement. If anything happened to her, he would never forgive himself. Mo Fan expressed his thoughts to Xingxia. Brother Mo Fan, you've taken good care of me for so long, so I can do whatever I want without worrying too much. If you insist on not letting me go, I'll listen to you. But when I heard about your accident last time, I felt so sad. I've saved many people with my healing element, but I couldn't do anything for you. All I could do was worry and pray for you. I want to be by your side. I want to be closer to you. I don't want to wait somewhere alone, left with meaningless, deep regret when something happens and I can't help you in any way. Xingxia's voice was soft, yet firm. Xingxia was born with a gentle character. Her impaired movement made her look pitiful, but Mo Fan knew she was bright and strong inside. When she was abandoned in the supermarket during the calamity in Bo City, if she had accepted her fate, she would not have hidden inside the cold fridge when her chances of survival were so slim. Mo Fan felt Xingxia's words knock some sense into him. He had focused too much on protecting her, shielding her from any foul air. Maybe it was true that he had protected her from the wind and rain like a big tree, but he had also blocked the brilliance that belonged to her, the scent she wanted to emit for him. After a long pause, Mo Fan finally agreed to respect Xingxia's decision. She was willing to be protected because of her trust and respect for him, yet she was even more willing to stay by his side and contribute. As Mo Fan nodded and agreed that Xingxia could come along, her pleasant giggle came from the other end of the call, clearly anticipating the adventure. Because of her situation, training was impossible for her, let alone any adventure in the wild. Her impaired movement gave her a strong desire to go out and see the world, the vast skies and lands. She was not weary of her familiar environment. It was a natural yearning. After hearing Xingxia's laughter, the last hint of worry in Mo Fan's heart gradually dissipated. Being able to experience the desert, which was completely different from the south, was most likely a luxury for the girl. He should not lock her up, but fulfill her dreams as much as possible. Mo Fan had basically decided on the team members, the intelligence capsule Lingling, the fearless forward Zhang Xiaohe, and the super support Xingxia. Zhao Mannion had also brought along a trustworthy magician, also from the Zhao family, called Chen Yi, an earth magician. The desert was filled with earth elemental power, followed by fire element. Even though Zhang Xiaohu's secondary earth element fulfilled the basic requirement of needing an earth magician, it was safer to bring another earth magician along. Chen Yi was Zhao Mannion's cousin, a student from the Imperial College's main campus. When Zhao Mannion was busy collecting information about the Burning Valley and the Flame Bell, she heard that Zhao Mannion was going to the Dunhuang region, and she immediately recommended herself. Zhao Mannion made it clear that she would probably not get any reward for going with them, yet Chen Yi was still keen to tag along. Considering that his cousin was ranked fairly high in the Imperial College's main campus and was reliable, Zhao Mannion decided to include him in the party. If Zhao Mannion thought she was trustworthy, Mo Fan was willing to trust her, too. That summed up the members of the party, a party of 6. The party did not consist of many people, yet it was good enough to be called an elite party. Even if they could not find a Flame Bell's child, they would still benefit from the trip to the Dunhuang region. The best way for magicians to improve was by training in demon beasts' territories. The party of 6 made their respective preparations according to Lingling's arrangements. A bunch of young, hot-blooded magicians was on their way to Dunhuang. As soon as they arrived in Dunhuang, they were immediately welcomed by the unique charm of the barren lands. Looking ahead, there was nothing but yellow sand extending into the horizon. The hills in the desert were brown and stacked on top of one another, with varying heights. Unlike the flatlands in the southeast, the lands here were split into different layers. As they moved along, the bright sun would suddenly disappear as the place ahead was covered in shade their eyes were not used to. As they raised their heads, they would discover it to be a fault, extending in both ways like a wall, while the path ahead was right above it. Even though the whole party consisted of magicians, not everyone had the ability to teleport. They were riding the winged camels raised by the locals and slowly approached the infamous Burning Valley. The distance was not far, yet for some reason, the density of demon beasts skyrocketed after they passed the first fault. The locals referred to the fault as the boundary line. The direction that Mo Fan and his crew had come from was considered the territory of Dunhuang City, where the safe zone was established. However, if they crossed the boundary line and ventured deeper, they would find themselves surrounded by danger. Many kinds of creatures resided in the Gobi Desert. Its rich earth and fire elements resulted in a huge number of elemental beasts. On top of that, the danger posed by the ruler species, the sand tiger horde, left the hunters with no choice but to be extremely cautious once they crossed the boundary line. As they arrived at the boundary line, the winged camels were not as useful. These camels, no stronger than ordinary poultry, were terrified when they caught even a slight scent of demon beasts, not daring to cross the boundary line. The group set the winged camels free and climbed down to the descending barren lands. Intimidating cries would occasionally be heard from the desert, like soldiers on patrol signaling their restless comrades that their prey was walking right into the trap. They proceeded less than 5 kilometers forward when a powerful roaring gust with sand drifting in it approached the group from between two hills. The roar was deafening, and the sand hills began to sink rapidly. How unlucky, we've stumbled into the ruler species in this region just as we arrived, cursed Zhao Manyan, who quickly identified the creature through their roars. It's a sand hull tiger, a relatively fierce creature among warrior-level demon beasts. Be careful, Lingerling said to the others. Chapter N. Versatile Mage. Chapter 460. Hunting the Demon Tiger. The sand hull tiger was obviously heading toward their party after they had just infiltrated the demon beast's territory. Its large, glistening green eyes could be seen from a good distance, and the drifting sand in the wind was unable to conceal its menacing gaze. At the Dongting Lake area, they had first stumbled into a bunch of idiotic giant lizards, which were only servant class. However, the Dunhuang region was truly intimidating. They had already encountered a warrior-level creature after just stepping out of the safe zone. If the density of warrior-level creatures was so high, wouldn't the servant-class creatures have trouble surviving here? It's hungry and irascible. It will be difficult to comfort it, but it feels like it's in pain. Maybe it's injured somewhere, said Xinxia, who was sitting on the swift star wolf and glancing at the sand hull tiger alertly. Xinxia had not faced a demon beast since the incident at Bo City. Her expression was not as calm as the others, but since her secondary element was psychic, she should be able to get used to it fairly quickly compared to others. It means we can't skip the battle. Draw your swords. Mo Fan was irascible, too. It was his first time bringing his beloved Xinxia on a tour, so it was time to show her his capabilities. To everyone's surprise, Zhang Xiaohe was more impetuous than Mo Fan and was already charging forward, since both his elements had movement spells. He could not wait to face a member of the infamous Sand Tiger Horde. Damn, where did you find this kid? How ballsy is he? Cursed Zhao Manyan. Other magicians would most likely shit their pants when they saw a warrior-level creature. He had never seen anyone rushing up like Zhang Xiaohe, and he would not dare do the same himself. Fight at will, but keep an eye out for the blood sweat its body will excrete when the situation is grim. It's a sign that the beast is about to go berserk. Don't die to its one last attack. Lingerling reminded them. Zhang Xiaohe was the perfect example of someone impatient to fight. He was somewhat influenced by Mo Fan's personality. Completely fearless, smart with little tricks, yet not so intelligent overall. He charged at the sandhull tiger with a roar, even though they were only 50 meters apart. The menacing sandhull tiger was around 4 meters long and had high shoulders, as if the bones were poking out from its skin. Its limbs were much stronger than the swift star wolf, and its claws were sharp and powerful. A fierce head covered in sand-colored hair leaned forward. The sandhull tiger glared at Zhang Xiaohou. Its gaze seemed to flicker with a hint of doubt. Perhaps the sandhull tiger had been hunting its prey around this area for many years, yet it had never seen a human racing toward it excitedly. Shouldn't he be running for his life instead? The sandhull tiger did have some intelligence. It finally uttered a furious roar and lunged at the skinny human when it realized that he was not afraid and dared to challenge the dignity of its horde. The human did not have much flesh, but the tiger would not mind chewing on his bones. The sandhull tiger's explosiveness was quite shocking. It spread its limbs apart and lunged forward, creating a wake of sand plumes rising behind it. The sandhull tiger arrived in front of Zhang Xiaohou before the sand drifted into the air, turning into a furious red shadow ramming in his direction. Zhang Xiaohou's face paled. He had been told that the sandhull tigers were described as relatively savage and fierce demon beasts from the desert, yet he never thought their explosiveness would be this outstanding. 50 meters was the minimum safe distance for Zhang Xiaohou. When fighting a warrior-level creature, it would give him enough time to react and cast his spells. When training in the army, he had never given any warrior-level creature the chance to outmaneuver him at such distance. However, the sandhull tiger was a lot quicker than he had imagined. Luckily, he was a well-trained battle mage. The countless dangerous missions in the past had equipped him with the ability to remain calm when his life was in danger. He cast wind track and earth wave simultaneously. A powerful gust swept forward and left a clear trail behind it. The gust carried Zhang Xiaohou to his left swiftly. Meanwhile, he was controlling the sand under his feet, accelerating his movement and sending him to his destination quickly. Even though the sandhull tiger was savage, with outstanding explosiveness, it was not as nimble and agile as the swift star wolf, which could alter direction rapidly. After missing the pounce, its body slid a great distance away, and by the time it turned around, it was 50 meters away from Zhang Xiaohou again. It gathered its strength once more and dashed at Zhang Xiaohou at the same pace. However, it did not notice that the sand under its feet had already changed color. The sand had turned brown, with a slight stickiness. The sandhill appeared to be sinking, undulating, and being drawn into a deep hole. The sandhill grew steeper gradually as an obvious quicksand hole formed between Zhang Xiaohou and the sandhull tiger, rapidly expanding in size. When the dry sand became thicker, the limbs of the sandhull tiger sank deeper into it, requiring a lot more effort to drag him out. It was running with the same force, yet it took the creature 3 times the duration to cover the same distance. The stickiness of the sand obviously slowed down the sandhull tiger. In addition, as the sandhill continued to collapse, it began to draw the tiger into the center of the quicksand. I thought the guy was being reckless, but he was actually laying a quicksand trap, baiting the sandhull tiger to jump into it. Zhao Mannion smiled. The scariest part about the sandhull tiger was the explosiveness that could take its foes by surprise, and the violent pounces which one could not dodge even when well prepared. Zhang Xiaohou had used himself as bait, tricking the sandhull tiger into landing in the quicksand. Even though that alone was not enough to bury the beast, it had significantly weakened the threat it posed to the party. With Zhang Xiaohou initiating the fight, Mo Fan and Chen Yi quickly joined the battle. On the one hand, Chen Yi, whose primary element was earth, smartly cast a rock barrier above the quicksand pit the sandhull tiger was trying to jump out from. The rock barrier kept the sandhull tiger inside the rapidly flowing sand like a wall. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.